What's up, everybody? This is Steve Strelacci, and today we are talking about the 5 best features for the Line 6 Helix. We are talking about the 5 best features of... And we are talking about the 5 best features of the Line 6 Helix. Let's get it. So what I love most about the Helix over other modelers is that the Helix really is an all-in-one solution. It was not designed to do one thing particularly well. It was designed to do a lot of things really well. And I think that that really shows after using it for a couple of years and really getting, I guess you call it mastering it and totally having every aspect of it under my fingers and knowing exactly what to do in what situation. I've got a lot of experience with this thing at this point. I've had it over 3 years and I've used it around the world, touring, studio sessions, everything you could think of. And it covers everything that I needed to do, which is what really separates it from me. It's like some of the other modelers out there can do some things really well, but they're not designed for another use. The Helix is like universally usable in any application. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the favorite features using the Helix. Before we get started here, let me know if you are already a Helix user. What are your best features, your favorite features of the Helix? Let me know in the comments below. I'm sure that I'm not going to name everybody's top 5. So if you have some cool stuff that you want to add to the conversation, drop it in the comments below. And hopefully help somebody out that is considering a Helix. Did I also mention that it's over 5 years old and it's still in the top of the conversation when it comes to modelers? And yes, I always get a kick out of the fanboys from any other modeling unit that like to fight in the comments and say that there's no way that it could sound better than their modeler. So stupid. If you want to do that, have at it. I'm going to have a good time ignoring your comments. But I do love all the modelers. I think they're all great. They all sound great. Really comes down to the user and whether they know what the hell they're doing or not. So if you tried a Helix and you couldn't get good sounds out of it, I'm sorry to tell you, it's probably your fault, but it could just not be your workflow and maybe something else works better for you. That's totally fine. Everybody can get along and have different guitar units. So back to the point of the video, the best features of the Helix, in my opinion. Number 1 is going to be snapshots. Snapshots are the greatest thing to ever happen to a gigging musician. So this is going to fall into the live use category. It's the easiest thing ever. So I think of the Helix as your preset is a master rig. So when you dial in a preset, you have your amps, your pedals, your effects, you have everything that you want in your rig. And then what snapshots are, they are basically presets within that rig. So if you have a clean sound, a dirty sound, a heavy sound, a ambient sound, a super clean thin part, a super weird hi-fi part, if you have any of those, it can all be done with one press of a button. And snapshots can do literally anything. They can change amp parameters. They could change pedal assignments. They can even change the delay subdivisions. So instead of wasting a block on delay pedals, you could just use one delay that you really like and use the snapshots to change the subdivision. So if you want a dotted eighth for one snapshot and then a quarter note for another, it's right there, easy for you to do. And why this makes gigging so much easier. I mean, I've tried gigging with my pedal board again after using snapshots, and it's such a weird headache that I'm not used to having, because instead of having to hit like your boost, your delay, and another overdrive pedal, and then say you have to go right to a quiet bridge, you have to click all them off immediately and try to hit the downbeat in time. You don't have to do any of that anymore. I could just tap the one button and be done, and it's a seamless gap. There's no gap at all when you're using snapshots. So it's a seamless transition into one piece or the other, and it works really great. There's a couple of songs that I play live that I have a big rock solo and then it goes right into a quiet bridge, and I really need that instantaneous snapshot. I don't even know what I would do if I didn't have the snapshots at my disposal in my live show. I'd be tap dancing all over the place, and it would be a very frustrating experience gigging. So snapshots for the Helix are my number 1 best feature for it. Number 2 is pedal edit mode. And this is something that I think separates it from other modelers. I don't believe that other ones can do this, but this is something that I found myself using a lot, and it's totally not talked about enough in the Helix community and the modeling community. I don't get why people don't talk about this pedal edit mode. I think it's like one of the best features to ever come out into a guitar product. It's so cool. Basically what pedal edit mode is, you hold down the switch on the pedal board and it takes you into your rig. So you basically see all the blinking lights. That's all of your effects and amps in your chain. You click on one of them and it takes you into the parameter controls for whatever box you chose, whatever block that you chose. And now you can fine tune it with the foot switching. So you could tap either left or right for the foot switches to get a couple, like if you want to dial it in within tenths, the Helix runs 1 through 10 with 1 decimal place, so tens. So if you want to go by tenths, you could just tap the page button. Or if you want to use the expression pedal, you can go full sweep either direction for the parameter you're trying to adjust. And I mean, that's the way engineers do it in the studio, right? Like you would totally go off and then you totally go max, and then you'd kind of wiggle it in the middle until you find your sweet spot. And you're allowed to do that with the Helix instead of having to play, bend over, tweak a pedal, play, bend over, tweak a pedal. And I think that that's such a huge, it's an overlooked feature because it's such a time saver. And I get to play the part that I'm trying to make cut, and I can make the EQ adjustments with my feet without having to sacrifice playing the part and then trying to do it all by memory back and forth. It just makes life so much easier. I also used it as a learning tool. So one of the coolest things that the Helix has taught me is really getting good at understanding EQ frequencies in terms of numbers. So before this, I had really very limited knowledge of EQ in terms of numbers. Like I said, kilohertz, hertz, and I'd be like, I don't know what any of it is. But I actually used pedal edit mode and the 10-band graphic and the 6-band Cali graphic. And I used pedal edit mode with those, and I would sweep all the way up, sweep all the way down, hear what it sounds like maxed out, hear what it sounds like off. And that kind of helped train my ear to hear the frequencies and put numbers to the frequencies. So now if I'm ever in a pinch and I need a certain type of sound or I need a certain frequency, I now know how to get it. And I did that with pedal edit mode in my Helix. So another great feature of the Helix. The third feature I want to talk about is the ability to run multiple instruments. So the Helix has the ability to run, I think you can even do up to 4 independent paths, meaning that you can have totally separate rigs and not have them affect one another. I personally use this, and I was in a conversation in one of the Facebook groups the other day about somebody saying that there's no way that anybody actually does this live, and I do. I actually, my wife is Jessica Lynn, the country artist that I tour with, and I control her whole electric guitar rig within my Helix. She goes through an effects loop, and she's on a totally independent path of mine. Our sounds don't conflict at all. They have nothing to do with each other. They do not affect each other in any way at all. They are literally 100% independent. And you could do this with multiple instruments. And it's such a big thing live, especially being a touring band now, because we need to travel light and we need to travel simple. And having one less guitar rig to worry about, never having to worry about backline, forget about 1 amp at backline, having to worry about 2 amps at backline. When we're touring Europe and stuff, sometimes things get a little dicey in terms of our rider and our backline situations, or you show up to a festival having no idea what to expect. But having 2 paths in my Helix, we always know what we're going to sound like direct to front of house. It sounds great every single gig. It's super consistent, and I wouldn't change anything about it. And the reason that I run both electric guitars through my Helix, aside from the obvious of having less gear to worry about, is that it allows Jessica, the front person, to perform rather than have to worry about tap dancing. If you watch any rig rundown of any famous rock star, they all have their fancy guitar techs and their whole station backstage. And all the techs have their MIDI controller that they control all of the patch changes in the live show. So you won't see Slash tapping on a pedal board. You won't see Billy Gibbons tapping on a pedal board because their techs are doing it backstage, and it's the same concept. I allow Jessica to be the front person. I'm a side musician, so I'm off on the side. I'm in my spot. I could tap my snapshots and control her sounds, and she doesn't have to worry about, looking down while singing and tapping on a pedal. It's already done for her. Life's good. The fourth feature I want to talk about is as a recording interface, and I was so hesitant to use this at first. I used to use my Focusrite and go direct into it, and then after a while, I just decided to try it one day, and the Helix as a recording interface is amazing. It's really great. You directly monitor the guitar sound, so there's no latency going through your computer and back into your headphones. You plug right into the headphone jack and you can hear the backing tracks you're playing to. It becomes your computer sound card, so you hear YouTube if you're playing along to YouTube, and obviously you hear your DAW if you're recording something. All the time when I'm jamming at home, I'll just throw up a YouTube backing track and plug in my headphones to my Helix and I'll just jam away. And if I want to lay something down, it's right there for me as well. Really easy. There's also, when you're plugged in via USB, there's an option to record a dry DI track. So you'll plug your guitar into the Helix and it'll take your guitar sound, just the guitar plugged direct in, and send that to its own channel in your DAW so that you can record just as if you plug straight in, which is the most uninspiring tone you'll ever hear in your life. But it comes in handy if the direct monitored signal where you're listening, like while you're playing and you have this great tone in your ears, that might not cut it in a mix. And it might not be exactly what's right for a track or what's going to be the best sound for the project. So having the dry DI track allows you to reamp that signal. And now you can basically send your really good performance that you were happy with back into the Helix, or if you use Helix native, and then you can now tweak your amp settings while listening to your part within the track and make it cut through and make it do exactly what you want it to do. So having that dry DI track has saved me a bunch of times. I'm sure it saves countless others, and it's a really great feature to have when you're recording via USB. The fifth one I want to talk about is the Command Center, and this is back to a live application. I guess it could be a studio application too, but mainly for my live users, the Command Center allows you to fully customize the layout of your pedal board. I was in another conversation with somebody in the comment section saying that the floor layout of the HX Stomp XL that's coming out in the next few months is that the layout's stupid. There's, the arrows shouldn't be there. The banks should be over here and this, that, and the other thing. It's like, well, you could do whatever you want with that. The HX Command Center allows you to customize your layout. So when you're in pedal board mode, meaning you see all of your pedals laid out just like you would on the floor, you can customize each individual place to do anything you want. So it used to be that the stock options were either 8 presets, 8 snapshots, 4 presets, 4 snapshots, 4 snaps, 4 stomps, etc. And then with the introduction of the Command Center snapshots, you're allowed to put the snapshots and the presets anywhere you want. So if you only use 1 or 2 snapshots, they're right there for you. If you use stomps, they're right there. If you need to jump to specific presets, you could put those right there. So if the preset is like 10 slots away or in another folder, you could just literally tap a button and it'll jump you right to that preset. And it makes everything easy, really nicely laid out right in front of you. And it's definitely become a favorite feature of mine because as a full-time touring player, before COVID, it makes life so much easier not having to worry about tap dancing. Again, I'm about simplicity. I want to just step on one pedal and go, and I want to play. And that's what the Command Center allows you to do. All right, so that is my top 5 favorite features of the Line 6 Helix. I hope you guys got something out of this video. If you're new here, please consider commenting, and subscribing. I would really appreciate it. And thank you for stopping by, checking out the video. I will see you all in the next one.